Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a House Committee Sub 1. I'd like for the clerk to report.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 83.
General from Clerk.
Today, I stand to present to this honorable body a very simple but yet a very profound piece of legislation that disallows biological males from playing in an all-girls sports. Senate Bill 83 is a marriage of the Senate's version of the bill, along with House Bill 23 that we had 52 co-sponsors in this chamber. And I would like for this body to adopt this committee sub. And what this committee sub has done is to remove the language of lawsuits out of the original bill. Senate Bill 83 simply states that biological males cannot compete in an all-girls sport. Section 1, paragraph G of KRS 156.070 defines how sex is determined. And it's determined by an original, unedited birth certificate. And in cases where a birth certificate is edited or altered, and there are cases where maybe a mother hasn't declared the paternity or a state doesn't require sex on a birth certificate, then a sworn affidavit from a physician, advanced practice registered nurse, physician's assistant, or chiropractor. Any individual can participate on a boys or a co-ed team, but this particular measure specifies girls' teams. I had a House floor amendment that I was going to call today, but I chose not to because we found a KRS statute that remedies the enforcement measure that we're looking for. And at this time, I would like to yield to the gentleman from Nelson to explain this statute.
To recognize the gentleman from Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman bringing this bill had a floor amendment 1 that he was seeking to make clear that there would be a civil remedy. But the floor amendment had just some wonky language. And so rather than get into that, I along with the help of some other attorneys, wanted just to point out to the body KRS 446.070 allows anybody a civil remedy if there's been a violation of a statute. So that would allow for the injunction that was contemplated in the first floor amendment. So it will not be needed.
Gentleman from Clerk.
So before the adoption of the committee sub, one other change in the committee sub is that we have a section 2, which is a new section, take KRS chapter 164, that's created to include post-secondary education. And with that being said, I'd like to adopt House Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 83.
Motion is for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 37 states have introduced this legislation. 11 states have now passed. On March the 3rd, Iowa became the 11th. At puberty, males began to have increased muscle mass, strength, including increased heart size, higher hemoglobin levels, which result in greater oxygen carrying capabilities, and different muscle to fat ratios are much higher in biological males than females. Biological males have greater bone density, greater metabolism rate, thus releasing greater energy faster. The clear physiological differences lead to major physical advantages for males over females. For example, some of you all may have remembered Florence Griffin Joyner, commonly known as FloJo. To me, she was a hero. She was the epitome of female sports, especially in the Olympics. I enjoyed watching her. She was a solid muscle. She worked, she trained, and she reached the pinnacle of success in the Olympic arena with all the work that she put in. In 2017, 36 high school boys beat FloJo's record in the 100-meter. How did they do that? They didn't train like FloJo trained. They didn't put the work or the effort in that she put in. But because they were born a male and they had the physiological and physical advantages, those boys beat a trained professional. High school boys didn't train as she did, but yet, because of their birth, they were entitled to physical advantage. Many sports organizations, the only requirement for playing as a transgender female is a year of testosterone suppressants or blockers. But that in itself is not enough. The physiological differences are already so prevalent, and the physical advantages are there. Isn't it ironic that this is the 50th year of the anniversary of Title IX? And here we are once again defending women's sports. Feminists are speaking out. Those from the LGBT community are divided on the issue. And this law ensures that both sexes get the opportunity to play in a competitive and fair environment. Now, you will hear from the other side, let's let the kids play. No one's denying anyone the opportunity to play, but you have to play in your assigned gender. I don't want one single female in our state to lose a female sports title, a scholarship, nor the opportunity to play. This is fundamentally about fairness, to ensure that both females, biological males, have a level playing field, and not to deprive any of such. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a red state, blue state issue. Polling across America, listen to this, polling across America, across Republicans, Democrats, and independents, are 3-1 in favor of saving women's sports. In a recent study, only 1/4 of males receiving hormone therapy were able to achieve female levels of testosterone. And despite 12 months of testosterone suppressions, and male subjects in one study still enjoyed 50% higher and greater leg strength than a control group of healthy females. Multiple studies have found that muscle mass only decreases modestly or not at all during testosterone suppression. On average, there is some loss of muscle mass and strength, but that in itself cannot reverse the 40 to 50% difference that exists between men and women. One of the most popular transgender activists spoke out, Caitlyn Jenner. It says it's just not fair for trans girls to play women's sports. Now, we talk about science when it fits our narrative. We talk about science when it falls into our agenda, but let me give you just a little bit of science. Men average around 60 to 100% greater arm strength, 25 to 60% greater leg strength, and approximately 60% greater grip strength than women. In baseball, tennis, volleyball, men are able to throw, hit, kick the ball further, faster than women. For example, men throw baseballs on an average of 81 miles per hour compared to an average throw of a female, which is at 60 miles per hour. Leah Thomas, very famous Penn State swimmer, competing this week for a national title. As a man competing in college sports, ranked 462 in the men's division, now is ranked number 1 in the female division, breaking records and competing as we speak. The question is to be bared. Why is there divisions? Why are there different weight classes in certain sports? That is to make a level playing field for all who are involved. And if we are to make the case today that let's just let everybody play, doesn't matter the advantages they have or not, let's get rid of performance-enhancing drugs. Those things matter because they create a physiological and physical advantage. And so today, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to labor the point. I'm sure there'll be a few questions, but I would like to have passage of Senate Bill 83 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.